Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zollo. It is part two of our look back. I'm so used to saying a look inside. I was about to say a look in back, and that didn't make any sense. A look back. So used to saying a look inside because what we are doing is going back to our look insides, seeing how well we did, how poorly we did. I listened back to last week's show. It was 50-50 from what I could hear. And honestly, I think this week might be a little more trending on the downward side because you get to these weird teams that you're not really sure what you're looking at. There's a couple of playoff teams in here that we will also bring up. So some teams that moved up the rankings, as well as some teams that shot very far down the rankings. So it's going to be a very fun show. I am back. All the boys are here. Let's get into it. Welcome in to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zollo. I don't believe Josh is looking at the screen currently because the joke is there and nobody's paying attention to it.
Oh, I see
so,
it. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I have all 32 NFL teams' flags hanging above my head, and I don't know why. This one just fell off the wall today. And it just landed perfectly on my forehead in the last 30 seconds since the introduction. Those listening on the podcast, it is a Tampa Bay Buccaneers flag. For those not knowing what happened, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers essentially embarrassed the Philadelphia Eagles, plain and simple. Who would have thought James Bradbury's a bad corner? Not this guy. Not this guy.
If you had just clued me in, you wanted to torment Josh, I have like a Fire the Cannons flag when we visited the stadium. I could have been flying it.
Why do my co-hosts hate me? Why do I subject myself
Josh,
to this fucking nonsense?
Josh, I had my opening line to the show after Dallas lost. I was gonna say, "Yeah, here we go." That was gonna be my opening line, but then the Eagles.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
NFC East heading home.
That's tough looks. But yeah, I mean,
let's be real. I knew we were going to lose this game. I've literally been saying it for weeks.
Since November, you said this was a first round. Well, not since November.
This is not a good team.
Since the first loss of the 3-game losing streak, you said this now is a one. This is a one and done
poorly coached team. There's literally no discipline. The amount of missed tackles, dear God. Like unfathomable coaching job, and not having AJ Brown obviously didn't help matters any, but going out like that why are you disrespecting Jason Kelce like that? That's all I
imagine not being able to throw on arguably the worst secondary in the NFL over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm glad you finished that with over the last 3 years, because I think our bad secondary this year takes the cake.
Oh, trumps it.
Well,
easily.
I think Baker Mayfield's 337-3 pretty much seals that up.
You see the mic'd up of Baker on Godwin's touchdown? He called the audible and said, "Chris, be ready." He already knew what he was doing with the football. He knew he was throwing it up to Godwin because Avonte Maddox, essentially, what he does is plays with his helmet backwards.
Did you guys see the picture that the Panthers had Baker lining up as a scout team defense player?
I remember that. I remember that.
I covered the Panthers in the preseason, and I don't remember that. And I'm like, how?
Apparently, you didn't do a good job covering them, Ryan.
Does it surprise anybody that Baker Mayfield was lined up at D end and the Panthers passed on CJ Stroud because of his test scores? Does that surprise anybody that organization did that?
Yeah.
Nope.
No, not a single person. Today, we are covering the New Orleans Saints, fringe playoff team. Tennessee Titans fired their head coach. Cleveland Browns, they pulled a Cleveland.
Fringe playoff team.
They pulled a Cleveland. New York Jets. What? Patriots, top 3 draft pick. Green Bay Packers, dogs. Final 8, dogs. Who needs a defense when you put up?
Shout out to Joel.
Points?
We've been giving Joel so much shit this season, and he deserves all of the flowers right now.
Well, Washington Commanders, top 5 draft pick.
Leave it to Joe to humble somebody.
Yeah. trying to be nice to a guy I've been mean to for 3 months.
Didn't he have Christian Watson inside the top 20?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's the reason I had Christian Watson inside the top 20.
Great. Pittsburgh Steelers forever mediocre under Mike Tomlin. So what does it even matter?
But never losing.
Never losing, just never winning either.
Never.
which is just that's like telling somebody you're not wrong, but you're also not right.
I mean, Mike Tomlin is essentially Black Jeff Fisher, plain and simple.
Someone tell me Ryan's wrong.
That bad? Come on, man. Jesus
I mean,
Christ.
Mason Garrett.
September 8th is Mike Tomlin Day.
Tell me he's wrong. Tell me he's wrong. Coaching news, though. I thought this broke Wednesday morning, so you guys talked about this, but it's
after
not.
Our show.
Yeah.
It broke Thursday.
Vrabel
morning.
news was Wednesday morning. Belichick was Thursday.
That's what
we covered. Vrabel.
Yeah.
Billy B. See ya, bud. Love that he's interviewed with the Falcons.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know, right? His entire
it.
interview should just be that Super Bowl that they came back to win. And
people keep saying they're like, imagine asking Belichick, tell us the time you overcame adversity, and he's like, well,
let me tell you about 28-3.
Let me tell you about February 2017.
Let's be clear here. The Falcons. He's interviewing the Falcons, right? It's not vice versa.
Everyone's like, yeah, they interviewed him. It's like, no, Belichick's going in asking what the organizational structure is, what what everything is. And granted,
and how big is your Brinks truck?
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, Atlanta's probably the best fit for him.
Josh called this. Josh was all about this.
Good, solid defense. Is there I don't know if there's a fire alarm going off here, but it doesn't sound like it's coming in my apartment. So we're just gonna wait. We're gonna wait on that. It's like the NFL red zone. We are in a safe space. I'm gonna wait until I'm told to be evacuated. No, I like Atlanta. I think I put it on the show sheet last week. Atlanta is a quarterback away from 11 to maybe 12 wins.
No, you absolutely did.
And I believe that, and I think Bill could do something there. Everyone bringing up Dallas, literally can it? Really? Dallas, Jerry Jones and Bill Belichick. Unless Jerry Jones is willing to keel over and let Belichick touch him over the pants, that's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. Jerry is not keeling over to Bill Belichick. Now, granted, they are talking, but I in no way believe Jerry and Bill can work together. And then they also bring up Philadelphia. Should Sirianni be fired? Yeah, he's a fucking dummy. He should be gone. But we also talk about Bill wanting a lot of power. Those two organizations are not allowing him to have any power.
I was going to say, this is why Philly hired Sirianni, because he's a yes man. He's a fucking puppet.
Correct. Laurie and Howie Roseman are doing they're doing all of it. Yep. And Jerry Jones
is Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones is Jerry Jones. Whereas Arthur Blank is just like, get me a fucking championship.
Well, not to mention, we brought this up a lot last week. Hugh Fontenot has done an excellent job in that front office lately with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, obviously.
Whoever's doing their putting their team together is pretty fucking smart.
I am going to die on the hill that I think he should go to the Chargers. You already have the quarterback. It's not guessing at quarterback. But that's just me.
I think that
Josh, you said
there's way too many cap issues for that team. Belichick wouldn't be able to. No.
Listen. Belichick in the cap. That's he. You want to talk about a guy who thinks it's non-existent?
Joe, can we talk about Belichick? It's not going to happen, but can we talk about Belichick with Keenan Allen in the slot and Austin Eckler in the backfield? We might see Edelman and James White all over again, baby.
Well, Eccles is a free agent, sadly.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it wasn't going to happen.
Keenan Allen could very well be 2008 Wes Welker. Yeah. And the Saints fire offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael because that guy was the issue.
Well, let's be clear. He probably was. They left him in that role for way too long.
Offensive coordinator in the NFL.
Here's the real question: Is this the nail in Taysom Hill's coffin? Finally.
Yeah, right. Well, everybody that they're bringing in to interview is all from like the McVay Shanahan coaching tree.
Oh, so they're gonna keep.
So, like, I heard they were trying to line up Shane Waldron, who's the OC right now in Seattle. They've talked with Zach Robinson, who I think is the QB coach with the Rams. Like that kind of seems to be the direction they want to go. So yeah, down on Taysom Hill, 100%.
There you go. Well, speaking of the New Orleans Saints, they're our first team loading into my guys for the season. Josh, you had Juwan Johnson, rip. Ryan,
but you know what though? He won me a fantasy football championship, so he did his fucking job.
Tight end 1 in championship week.
Yep.
Tight end 25 on the season.
I only needed him the 1 week.
Great segue.
Ryan and our guest, Eric Moody, both had Chris Olave finished wide receiver 16. It didn't feel like it. Let me tell you, it did not feel like it, but finished as a wide receiver 2. You could technically say down from what people expected. A lot of people expected him to be a true wide receiver 1. My sleeper, Jamal Williams. Did he exist? Was he on the roster? The 1 year was fun, everybody. As I say, the Mighty P was
talk about some touchdown regression. Let me tell you.
Yes. Touchdown regression. He had 1.
Yeah.
On the last fucking play of the season.
and that one came with some controversy.
And that one didn't even count towards fantasy football.
Yeah.
So my ADP was Marcus May. He was injured for most of the season. He only played 7 games. The games he was in, meh. They weren't great, weren't bad. But obviously not a great year for Marcus May. Juwan Johnson, I don't really want to spend too much time. I know preseason we had mentioned Derek Carr's connection with Darren Waller. He liked Foster Moreau when he was in Vegas. It just didn't end up working. Olave was an enigma because there would be a week where he would have 8 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown. And then the next week, New Orleans would have 28 passing yards going into the fourth quarter. So, Ryan, I'll let you take it. Is Carr the issue? Was the aforementioned Pete Carmichael the issue? Is everything the issue? What's the problem? And do you like Olave, at least for the time being, going into next year?
I'm never going to be mad at Olave. Olave has shown it on the field. I do think the offense was the issue. When you look back at Olave's rookie season, and rookie receivers have popped. So it's not like you can, if you believe in Olave, he had 14.5 yards per catch. However, 60% catch rate, only 1,000 yards, only 4 touchdowns, played 15 games, only 120 targets. And then you jump into a sophomore year where he and Garrett Wilson, we thought they both were going to pop off. Targets certainly exploded, 138. Catch rate goes up to about 63%. However, we see yards per catch drop down, 12.9. We expected that when you see more volume, it goes down. But the touchdowns still, 4 touchdowns as a rookie, 5 touchdowns. We haven't seen that big touchdown year from him. We know Derek Carr's not afraid to throw the deep ball, but we did see, in Joe, this is a guy you and I both like, Rashid Shaheed kind of stepped up and became that deep threat, and Olave had to do the stuff that, I don't want to say the stuff we're used to seeing Michael Thomas do, but he had to do different stuff. So I think it's a not using your pieces in the right way sort of thing. So I'm happy Carmichael is gone, and I'm going to be real interested to see who takes over here. Hopefully it's somebody who's a little bit more creative and knows how to use an alpha receiver, because as Josh mentioned, Pete Carmichael, longest tenured guy, but Michael Thomas, while he was an alpha for a little while, was never a true alpha receiver. He was just a high target guy. They don't know what it's like to really have a number 1. Now let's go out here and see what we can do with a number 1.
They really need to get a big body receiver in there to play opposite Chris Olave.
They got one. They got A.T. Perry. Let my man play.
A.T. Perry I like A.T. Perry.
He came on at the end, Josh. I'm going to be right about one of these tall fuckers once.
I don't know if you'll be right. I wouldn't plant my flag on A.T. Perry, but
I mean, if you've seen some of the other guys I've planted my flag on, they've all blown up. And I mean, the bad way of blowing up. So if A.T. Perry can come out and just have 100 target season, I feel like that's vindication on me loving tall wide receivers.
If that man is 100 targets next year, what Carr's going to have to throw the ball 700 times.
I'll say it right now. If A.T. Perry has 100 targets next year, I will buy a fucking A.T. Perry jersey. That's my guy.
Good luck finding one.
I would say they probably have a discount.
You'd have to go down to New Orleans on the team shop to probably find it, and even then, I question.
I'll call Cooter Doodle up. She'll figure it out for me.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure they're selling them at the Caesar Superdome. A.T. Perry. Just take his anytime touchdown prop bet every game next year. You'll probably make money on it.
Can we just talk about Alvin Kamara really quick?
No.
I don't think anybody thought he was going to do in 13 games what he was able to do. I
had him projected at 63 targets. I think he had that through his first 6 games.
Yeah. I think he ended up like 86 targets. But I mean, even then, like he led all the running backs in carries as well. Like they basically shelled out money for Jamal Williams for literally no fucking reason. Like what this team, I will never understand the Saints and their just frivolous nature of just throwing money at the worst fucking people.
So hold on, you're telling me a team that's consistently $100 million over the cap just before free agency starts frivolously spends their money?
Jesus Christ.
Is that what you're telling me?
I'll never get it.
Alvin Kamara finished the RB11. He had 694 yards on the ground. I still stand by this. He's not a good running back. He had 3.9 yards per carry. I still stand by it.
A full yard per carry better than Jamal Williams.
Which is insane. Yeah, which is insane. His longest run was 17 yards.
Yeah. Oh, he's losing a step. There's no denying it.
100%. He had 5 touchdowns on the ground, and he only had 1 touchdown through the air, which is crazy out of the 75 receptions that he have, which I believe is second amongst all running backs. Can you name me who the number 1 running back in terms of receptions was?
We're going to talk about him a little bit later. It was Breece Hall.
We are going to talk about him later. Oh. It's Breece Hall.
Oh, wow. I literally would have put a lot of money on Christian McCaffrey.
Gun to your head. Breece Hall and Alvin Kamara would not have been 1 and 2 in my book. Nope. Christian McCaffrey was 3 fall.
Oh, for what it's worth, the Saints, as of right now, sit $82+ million over the salary cap.
The New Orleans Saints are why I can't take the salary cap serious anymore. I have a lot of friends. I bring this up every week. Big Cleveland Browns fan base that I'm friends with, and they're all like the Browns cap situation. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter with the Browns cap.
Look, it comes to bite you eventually. It will.
No, it doesn't.
No, it does. It really. I mean, look at the Bucks this year. The Bucks had like 80 some odd million just in dead cap. Like it comes due.
And they're in the playoffs.
And they're in the second round of the playoffs, Josh.
Well, I mean, I get that, but what I'm saying is it comes due. That is just excellent scouting, and that's great coaching on getting the best out of Baker Mayfield.
They got a defensive lineman playing quarterback, and they made it to the second round of the playoffs.
We probably should have seen the Baker
thing. And that's on
coming.
Coaching. Let's be real then.
we should have seen the Baker thing coming, considering the dude came from Seattle and made Geno Smith relevant. So really should have seen the Baker Mayfield thing coming.
Ben Cummins put out a tweet. If you're not following Ben, I highly suggest it, where he showed what Canales has done with quarterbacks over like the last 10 years, and it's incredible.
Russ, Geno, Drew Lock, Baker. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Pete Carroll's not the genius. It's that guy.
Yeah.
So Tennessee Titans. Yikes. Look, guys, let me tell you, nobody was right.
Eric Moody was right.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the best weapon on the team. Like
the only weapon on the team.
Okay.
And also, I could say I was right, but here we go. My guys, Josh, Treylon Burks, wide receiver 122.
Let's fucking go.
Just like we all saw.
He averaged a field goal per game. 3 points. Yikes. Chigoziem Okonkwo was Ryan's my guy. Tight end 20. I don't think he scored a touchdown until the final week of the season.
Yeah, I'm going to let you go. I do want to talk a little bit about Chig because it's very interesting.
No, that's fair. I love Chigoziem Okonkwo. Moody did go with Derrick Henry. Running back 8. He outplayed his ADP. I believe he was 10 or 12 before the season.
Finally started to fall a little bit.
Yeah, ran him into the ground. My sleeper, nobody. And that was 100% a hit.
Yeah. Joe's biggest win in the 2023 offseason was saying nobody.
Nobody. because the drop off from from DeAndre Hopkins to Nick Westbrook-Akine was
and also keep in mind too, when we did this show, D-Hop wasn't a Titan.
No, he was not a Titan.
Yeah, Hop wasn't a Titan. Tajay Spears wasn't even drafted yet. This was pre-draft. No, we do these after the draft. Yeah,
he was, but it was like May.
Yeah.
He wasn't relevant in the offense.
We didn't know yet. So.
No. And then my IDP was Jeffrey Simmons. He was hit when he was healthy. He only played 12 games, but he was on pace to break his combined tackles by like 20, career high. So he was injured, but he had a good season for you when he was playing. Ryan, you said you want to talk about Chigoziem.
Let me just throw.
Let's just go there
because it's super interesting. So my stat line for Chig is insanely close. I had him as my tight end 11. He finished as 20. I was so bad on the touchdowns because I didn't think he would only score 1. I had him at only 5 though. But this was a combined effort of Josh. We talked about this all year, and Joe, you for some of the year when you made it. Tight ends just did way better this year than I thought. So this was a thing of tight ends doing better.
Plus point scorers in tight ends.
Exactly. And tight ends doing better. And I had 2 projected. Tight ends doing better and Chig not scoring touchdowns. But I had him at 78 targets, 52 receptions, 660 yards, but 5 touchdowns. So I was basically off 40 yards and all the touchdowns. But like I said, that's a product of also tight ends just did way better this season. So I thought that mediocre bullshit season from Chig would have been good enough to make him a sleeper. Instead, it was good enough to make him just a guy. He's just a jag.
Yep. So. Yeah, I was off on him by 5 targets. So, I mean, everything else, yeah, like you, way off on the touchdowns. I mean, but again, this offense, the revolving door at quarterback between Levis and, Tannehill getting hurt. I will say I was off by only 1 total pass attempt in my projection. So I was like, okay, I'll take that.
Now it's going to be interesting because we keep bringing this up, but it's worth noting. Last year we saw the massive overreaction to the top 3 quarterbacks just breaking away. Are we going to now see a massive overreaction? And I feel like we've already started to see it in our very small mock draft show, our way too early mock draft, and just the general jabber around fantasy Twitter right now is tight ends are back, baby. I'm waiting till late to grab my tight end. I'm never taking a tight end early again. And is the same way quarterbacks came and bit us in the ass. Is that going to happen with tight ends next
year? Could be.
I could stream a tight end every week and be fine. So I don't care.
If you use just the player options I gave you in my article, I built the tight end 1 this year over Travis Kelce. So it's definitely still a viable option just to stream every week. So
yeah, you just got to get right of those
the right
5.
one. Yep. Yeah, you have to guess the right one of the 5 I'm giving you. Good luck. I don't.
Yeah. I've won at least 1 league every year, probably the last 10 years. I can't tell you the last time I drafted a tight end higher than round 13.
I am very highly considering moving on from Travis Kelce next year, which is big. I mean, it's
see ya.
Me and Taylor Swift. Which one of us was going to break up with Travis first? And it sounds like it's going to be me.
I think it's going to be you, Ryan. I think it's going to be you. And I just say that I heard people talking. There were like 3 cuts to Taylor Swift in the highlight package on Peacock or something like that.
Yeah.
Again, why? It's highlights. Why she's not on the field? What does that matter?
They get to show Taylor Swift.
Shout out Taylor. Shout out Taylor.
On cue. I love it.
That is amazing.
Of course.
Amazing.
Of course. It's like a fucking radar. All right. Well.
Oh, Emma, thank you.
Welcome, Emma. So glad to have you.
Great.
Yeah. Get it off the screen. Timing. When we all disagree with the Mike Vrabel firing. I imagine. I forget if you guys mentioned.
I think it's insane. I thought it was terrible. And Austin, when Austin and I did the mock draft show, Austin mentioned he thought Vrabel may voluntarily leave, which sounded insane to me. And then to see him turn around and get fired, I was like, "What the fuck is happening? Like Vrabel is not your problem."
One of the reports that I read, I think it was from Diana Rossini in The Athletic, it was just a power struggle. Like, that's really what it boiled down to. Like, Vrabel wanted to do things a certain way. They brought in Rand Carthen from the Niners front office before last year. And he obviously had a different ideology on how they could do things. Like, Vrabel basically is kind of what led to them getting DeAndre Hopkins, right? Like, he wanted to keep kind of chasing, whereas Carthen was like, dude, we kind of need to hit the reset button. We're getting a little old here. And there was just a philosophical difference. And I think that's ultimately what led to the parting of ways.
If Bill doesn't go to Atlanta, I think Vrabel's a very good coach there for Atlanta.
What a hire 100%. That would be.
That'd be I think to me, I think Atlanta's the best spot for any hot head coaching hire too. I think that's the best spot.
Yeah, man, you and Josh on the same page. Too bad we couldn't get you guys on the same show. Josh was
we're here now, and you're in a shit division that can't do anything, and all you need is a half competent guy that can read a defense. That's it. That's all you need.
I'm going to make one counterpoint to this because I do want to touch on the wide receivers and Treylon Burks before we move on.
Okay.
Counterpoint. The Commanders, second overall draft pick, 80 plus million in cap space. They have talent on offense, and they can use some of that free agency very similarly the way Atlanta did to rebuild that back end of the defense. You bring in an offensive-minded head coach. Maybe if Ben Johnson finds that level of attractiveness with 3 wide receivers. I know Curtis Samuel is a free agent, but you've got pretty solid running back in Brian Robinson. And again, 5 picks in the top 100. You can make some moves there. And let's be real, the NFC least is that right now. So
another very fair division. I'll give you that.
Because I think with Washington, you have more of an opportunity to reshape that team in your image a lot quicker. That's what I would say. Versus dropping a coach into an already existing situation.
That's fair. And real quick before Treylon Burks, because it wasn't on the show before last week. Jesse Bates, all pro. What's up? Josh, Treylon Burks.
Yeah, obviously this pick was made before DeAndre Hopkins came through. The injuries.
It doesn't even matter.
Yeah, and it really didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
Treylon Burks was awful. And I just keep coming back to, remember when the Titans traded A.J. Brown for an opportunity to draft Treylon Burks?
Remember when he was hunting the hogs with his bare hands, and that was the scout report?
And that's the thing. I like Treylon Burks, but he is not a true number one. He is a complimentary wide receiver at best.
I was just going to say, are we sure he and his 3 targets per game are complimentary wide receivers?
But again, you also have to look at the state of the offense. This offense isn't going to be an offense that sustains, 2 90-plus target wide receivers, with one of them being the 130 targets. Treylon
Burks is like if you handed somebody a wine that said Deebo Samuel on the label, but they found out how to peel it back and it said great value.
Yes, exactly.
That's not.
But real quick on DeAndre Hopkins, I had him projected at 222.96 fantasy points, and he finished with 223.6. I call that a fucking win.
Sounds like you didn't nail it, so.
Oh, fuck off,
I don't really know what you're doing there. No. Cleveland Browns.
Whew.
What the fuck, guys? Come on.
Who didn't see Joe Flacco coming back and leading the resurrection of the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, right.
Here's the thing. I thought January Joe was going to show up. And for a little bit, January Joe was there.
One incompletion, I think, in the first half.
January Joe was there. Let's get this straight. He was well and alive. And then I don't really know what the number 33, Ronnie Hilliard or something like that. I looked it up. Kid went to Ohio State with CJ Stroud, came out last year as an undrafted free agent. Shocking that an undrafted free agent from Ohio State that CJ Stroud played against can't cover. So CJ Stroud was picking on him the entire game. Whew. Tough looks, but Cleveland will be Cleveland. Am I right? I was hoping to say Detroit will be Detroit, but alas, here we are. Josh, your guy, Nick Chubb, running back 88, miss. Just an utter miss.
Look, before he got hurt, he was averaging 6.1 yards per game.
Just an utter miss. No,
what could have been?
Obviously, he's a very good. He had 6 yards per carry before he got hurt. He seems to have 6 yards per carry every season.
For the type
he averages over 5 yards per carry.
It's for ridiculous. The type of back really he is, for him to average the YPC he averages is ridiculous.
Like, why would you ever throw when you can get a first down in
every 2 carries?
Every 2 carries. Why would you throw the football? Ryan, you had Nick Chubb, but you're rooting hard for Jerome Ford. So Josh threw you a bone and gave you Jerome Ford. So shout out you for rooting for Jerome Ford and Nick Chubb's injury. Really proud of you.
I prayed for his downfall. It worked.
Yeah, prayed for his downfall and it worked. And Moody hit it. Amari Cooper, wide receiver 20.
And I remember Moody made a great argument. I couldn't tell you what it was word for word, but it's worth going back because he hit it on the head about it was going to be a target hog. Like he knew what was going to happen there. And he was absolutely right.
And we've all always agreed on the show. Amari Cooper, when he's actually playing football and like is focused, probably top 10 receiver in the end of like skill wise. Just
I was just gonna say route running and hands
top 5.
When he's focusing. Route running top 5. Hands when he's focusing, because man,
Insane.
He'll get the drops every now and then. But when he is focusing, he makes he's up there with some of the best catches you've ever seen on the sideline.
Yes, soft hands, great footwork on the sideline. So yeah, Moody called it. My sleeper, I didn't love anybody on the team, so I went with Donovan Peoples-Jones. Yikes, traded. I thought he had one good game.
This might be your third sleeper who did not finish the season on the team that you had.
Because these teams were so bad going into the year. I'm like, because the gap I think between Cooper and his ADP was wide receiver 71. There was no wide receiver.
It's 3 for a fact. Now I have to go back and look at the sheet because you said our boy Keontae Ingram. And Van Jefferson. So.
Yes, there were 2 last week. And those were both teams where I love Keontae Ingram. That was like a homer pick after watching him. But Van Jefferson who's the second wide receiver? And obviously Puka Nacua became the wide receiver 1 and Cooper Kupp was the 2. But at the time when it was, that was late May? Like nobody knew. They didn't even have OTAs or anything like that. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know, fuck it. Van Jefferson, he's free. Might as well. So was Donovan Peoples-Jones, and that's why Detroit got him for a 6th round pick.
And he finished last season so strong. You just
thought there was room for him. That's why I kind of liked it. And Grant Delpit was the IDP. Look, I don't know why everybody was hyping up Cleveland's defense. Just me. I don't really. I
started pretty damn hot.
Yeah, they did.
They got up to the passer with
Garrett
Myles Garrett
hot,
and Z Smith.
But let's be honest. Myles Garrett didn't have a good season. He had a really good, probably first 6 or 7 games. Had a couple hot ones here and there, but overall, he did not have a solid season. You want to talk about a solid season? Trey Hendrickson had a sack in every game except 1.
Yeah, I was actually just going to say.
That's a season.
Garrett, until he got a sack against the Jets in week 17, had not had a sack since week 12. So
he didn't have a good second half. That's what I'm saying. He didn't have a good second half of the season. So their pass rush was gone. In their secondary outside of Denzel Ward, what are we looking at here? Like Grant Delpit had
and Ward was in and out of the lineup too.
He always is. He always is. But Grant Delpit was meh. He was better in real life than he was in fantasy football, but he was still meh.
That was kind of the Browns' defense where they were better in real life than they were in fantasy because they certainly didn't do many favors.
And the stat, I love the stat they brought up on the broadcast. For those that didn't watch the game, they were the best defense at home. They were the second worst defense on the road. If that doesn't scream Cleveland's home field advantage of playing in shitty weather for 85% of your home games.
And a stadium that's right next to a lake that catches the wind. Like there's a lot that goes on in that stadium.
Yes, there's a huge amount. That's why we always say any kicker that goes to Cleveland, I don't care if it's Justin Tucker in his prime, sit him. Like it doesn't matter because you have no idea what that weather is going to be like. And same thing with even quarterbacks. When it gets windy, we always say this could be a good game for the running backs. So it makes sense. I wasn't a big fan of Cleveland's defense. I thought they were going to get carried by the man, the myth, the legend, January Joe. But sadly,
Stroud is him.
Sadly, they did not. It's really hard to say what went wrong with this team because they lost 3 quarterbacks.
Oh, no,
that's what went wrong.
No. Well, what went wrong goes all the way back to preseason 2022 when you forked all that money over for Deshaun Watson. That's what went wrong with the Browns, and it's going to be what's been wrong for the Browns for a long time.
That's very true. In terms of on the field, one might say they overperformed.
Well, that was what I said went wrong with the Texans is CJ Stroud was too damn good. Like that's what went wrong with our projections. I mean, what went wrong with this team was injuries, Joe. You hit it. Nick Chubb going down, Deshaun Watson going down. this was not the team I was projecting when I was doing projections.
No.
I liked Jerome Ford, but I expected Jerome Ford to step into the Kareem Hunt role, not the Nick Chubb role and Kareem Hunt to be back with the
Yeah, I was looking at the stats. Kareem Hunt had 8 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Kareem Hunt was playing some vintage Kansas City Kareem Hunt out of nowhere. So.
Couldn't do anything else. He averaged 3 yards a carry, but damn it, he scored touchdowns.
Bowling ball.
And nobody was, I mean, even Moody wasn't expecting Amari Cooper to drop 270 and 3 touchdowns on the Houston Texans with Joe Flacco at quarterback.
The greatest receiving game by a Browns receiver ever.
It's insane. Joe Flacco now has
I saw that.
He has the most playoff passing touchdowns or something like that. What is this?
And he passed Johnny Manziel in the yards and touchdown list in his 4th game or something like that.
Dude, the legend of Joe Flacco lives on.
I definitely very much underestimated David Njoku's involvement, which is wild to me because he was a top 5 tight end for me. And finished this tight end 6. Like, that's how crazy the tight end position was this year. Like mentioned earlier, there was 200 fantasy points or more. 6 tight ends hit that mark. I only had 3 in my projections that hit 200.
I think the breath of fresh air. David Njoku has always been a really likable guy that you just never knew if he was going to put it together. So to see him finally pop, that was the breath of fresh air. Just as someone who is adjacent to Browns fans, that was just fun to see happen.
I think we had seen him put it together, but they never targeted the tight end in that offense. Yeah. So now, and again,
not frequently anyway.
No, not frequently. It was like
123 targets this year.
Yes, it was like 5 to 6 targets a game normally for Njoku, or Harrison Bryant would be mixed into those, like maybe 8 total targets of the tight end.
Yeah, and I mean, there were rumors in the preseason of Jordan Akins taking the role away from Njoku because of his relationship with Deshaun Watson and everything. So, like, even coming into the season, Browns beat writers didn't have the greatest read on David Njoku.
And I don't know if Njoku put on muscle or something like that, but this man, it's like boss powers over everybody. Yeah. He's built like a defensive end.
If you drew a football player, you probably draw David Njoku.
The fucking chief of his village in Nigeria. Yeah, that man right there. Imagine you walk it. You're an old explorer going to like you're going to Africa like they did back then. And a guy like David Njoku walks up, just turn the fuck around. Like, what are you doing there?
No conquering that village.
No, there's no conquering that village whatsoever. We're not running way over Josh. We're fine. All right. We're fine.
You've done 3 teams and we're at almost 40 minutes.
Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. Okay. Because we're going to go to the New York Jets and we're going to keep moving. All right. We're going to keep moving. This is team number 4 and we're going to be fine. You guys went over last week, so shut up. My bold prediction before the season, 1-5 in the division. They went 2-4.
I was going to say, not off.
Not off. Josh, your guy, Breece Hall. What a lucky fucking pick that was, you pile of shit. Ryan, Garrett Wilson, rip. Howard Bender, Garrett Wilson, rip. Wide receiver 26 isn't a bad year, but when you're being drafted as like the wide receiver 8, not good. My sleeper, Alan Lazard. Is there a pulse? Does anybody have his number? He was nowhere to be found. Quinnen Williams, massive hit. Sacks were down, but career high in tackles. Is what went wrong? They bought into Aaron Rodgers bullshit. Is that what
there was
wrong?
There was
and
no.
So did all of us. Yeah.
No
backup plan. That was the problem. Like, you look at all these other teams, they at least have a somewhat competent backup quarterback. The Jets went in and said, you know what? We believe that having Aaron Rodgers will help Zach Wilson. It did anything but. Garrett Wilson had the season that he had because he was 4th in the league in targets. Yeah. He had 168 targets and barely eclipsed 1,000 yards. Like, when we did this show, I was buying in so hard to like the Twitter doctors and saying, like, you know what? Breece Hall is going to be it. He's fine. And I had him as like a low end RB1 with that top 5 ceiling. And obviously we saw the top 5 ceiling, but I didn't come close to any of these projections at all because I ended up like overthinking things, and I took him way down to like the RB2 range, and I ended up passing on him on a lot of drafts. But the ones that I did have him in, which were Dynasty, things were great. I loved it. It was fantastic. But yeah, this whole offense, awful, terrible.
Every guy that had over 150 targets was inside the top 13 weeks 1 through 17. The only guy that was not, Garrett Wilson, and he was wide receiver 23.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's insane. His yards per reception was 10.8, which you normally look at and say, okay, he's averaging a first down per catch. Not bad. But you have guys, again, above him, CeeDee Lamb, 13.5. He's getting 3 more yards per reception off of this stuff. Like, he had 122 catches off his 168 targets. Garrett Wilson had 93 off his 163. So, and granted, you have to imagine a lot of his targets weren't good ones, which doesn't help his case whatsoever, but it wasn't like they weren't trying to get him the football. The guy just couldn't get it to him. And yes, they had zero backup plan going into this. And Ryan, you had said quickly, we all bought into the Aaron Rodgers bullshit. I didn't. I literally said they were going to go 1-5.
But you liked Alan Lazard as a sleeper. So I'm not saying as a team.
Yes.
We expected there to be a passing game here. And
100%.
I kind of hinted at this last week. It was so stupid for us to do this because he wasn't good in Green Bay the year before. Like, we could have just brought all of this back a notch and I don't know. Like I said, it was.
But we fell in love with it because he had better weapons.
Because he had Garrett Wilson.
Because he had Garrett Wilson, he had Breece Hall. And then they bring in Dalvin Cook, and you're like, okay. And that's a lot of my second guessing with Breece Hall. When they brought in Dalvin Cook, which wasn't accounted for when we did this show, it changes things, right? Now you've got another reliable running back. Dalvin Cook was a shell of himself. No wonder Minnesota moved off of him.
Not to mention the narrative when they signed Dalvin Cook was Breece Hall ready? Are they going to ease him back into things?
No. Yeah. He played all 17 games and was by far the best player on the field.
Without a doubt.
But guys, Aaron Rodgers is better than Tom Brady. I don't know if you know this from hearing everybody talk. Aaron Rodgers is better than Peyton Manning and all these guys that have come before him. I'd love to shake the hand of people still beating that drum. Cap for Life, I see your question. We're going to actually go just into the Patriots and then wrap up the AFC East with this team, at least while we're talking here, because the next team is the New England Patriots. Guys from the offseason, everybody and their mother said Ramondre Stevenson.
This was the year, baby.
Reminder, this was pre-Ezekiel Elliott.
Yes.
So keep that in mind. My sleeper, Pierre Strong, once again, pre-Ezekiel Elliott. And I had said, I meant to say Ezekiel Elliott, and I still would have been wrong. So it didn't even fucking matter. My IDP was Kyle Duggar.
RB30, so it wasn't that bad. Like, that's not bad for a sleeper.
Shut up. It's a loss.
Just saying.
Shut up.
I'll gladly let you take the L. Don't get me wrong.
No. In the statistics, mark it as a check mark. On the show, no. My IDP was Kyle Duggar. A couple good games. This whole team was terrible. I'll tell you the first thing that went wrong. Why the fuck were Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott splitting carries?
Sure.
Why was that happening? And for those that did not watch Patriot football, it wasn't give Ramondre a breather. It was one series Stevenson, one series Zeke. And they never switched. It wasn't like Zeke came off for a play and Stevenson came in. No. It was Ramondre for the whole drive, Ezekiel Elliott for the entire next drive, vice versa. They kept flipping and switching. Why? Someone explain that to me. Because we all went into the season saying Ramondre Stevenson is a volume running back. When he gets volume, he's good. And we saw that in one of his games where he popped. He got volume, and he was a top 5 running back. You don't give enough volume, he doesn't have time to wear down the defense. He's that big of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that really went wrong. Number 2, Bill Belichick's ego. That's out the door. We can kiss that one goodbye. Yeah. Number 3, Robert Kraft drafting Mac Jones. And I don't care what anybody says. Robert Kraft told Bill Belichick, we're drafting Mac Jones. That was a bad move.
I mean, it got into the playoffs the first year, so
see here was my worry, and I'm very happy this is not happening. Is Bill's gone now? My worry when Josh McDaniels was fired by the Raiders is that Bill, if he kept his job, would bring back Josh McDaniels and say to Robert, "This was the best year we had with Mac Jones, so we need Josh back." Now, granted, I would have loved to have Josh McDaniels back. I think he's one of the best offensive coordinators in the NFL. You can't tell me differently. Look at what he did with Mac Jones.
Yeah.
The thing I didn't want was Mac Jones. So I'm very happy that that is not happening. But Gerard Mayo did his press conference today. Love Gerard Mayo already. He said, "I don't want any complainers or finger pointers." Who do you think was in the room listening to that press conference? Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Fuck you, buddy. See ya. See ya.
Which goes to one of my points. The QB play was so bad, nothing had a chance to go right.
See ya. How bad do you have to be a top 15 draft pick, be the emergency third quarterback in the final game of the season? Can you even tell me who the backup was to Bailey Zappi in the final week of the season this year?
Wasn't it Malik Cunningham?
Malik
or they
Cunningham?
cut him before that?
No, Malik Cunningham is on the roster of the Baltimore Ravens
Oh,
as of like 7 weeks ago. The backup, Nathan, he might be on the practice squad, but I'm pretty sure they signed him to the
are
roster.
you about to say Peterman?
No.
Oh,
Nathan Rourke.
Oh,
Do you know who that is?
no.
No, I didn't either when they signed their 29th quarterback transaction this year. Nathan Rourke.
Interesting.
Yeah, bad. That's how bad
They
the
had
quarterback
no idea
play
what they were
was.
doing with the quarterback
No,
position.
no idea. They had no receiver. They let go of Myers to bring in Juju on the same contract. And shocking, who could have guessed Juju is a bad football player? God,
We've literally been saying it for years.
who's been beating that drum forever? My
I have
goodness.
not.
Yeah, because you're wrong and you're
But-
stupid.
But
That's why you're on the bottom, Ryan.
Yeah.
I would have much rather had Jacoby Myers. Let me be very clear.
Yeah.
All right, real quick. I want to end it on this, Joe, because I know how you get talking about the Patriots the same way I get talking about the Eagles. With Gerard Mayo now the head coach,
Sure.
do they end up keeping Bill O'Brien as the OC and
God,
letting
God.
him be the guy to groom presumably their next quarterback who they take at 3 overall? Or do they maybe consider firing Bill O'Brien and bringing back Josh McDaniels?
Listen, if you listen to Robert Kraft's 40-minute fucking press conference today, it was insane when they introduced Gerard Mayo. They bring up family a lot. Bill O'Brien is in the Kraft family. Obviously, he has been there before. Bill O'Brien's job is so safe. You have no idea.
Okay.
And I am angry about it because he had Mac Jones in Alabama. Now he has him in the pros, and he still can't do anything with him.
So you honestly think that they won't take a quarterback at 3, or like they'll end up trading back and sticking with Mac Jones?
They fucking better take a quarterback at 3. Are you kidding me?
But okay, so would you be happy with Jaden Daniels from LSU? Because that seems to be the guy.
I'd be happy with the Division 3 quarterback that's blind. Like, I don't care. Yes, I'd be fine with Jaden Daniels. He could throw a football. But dude, Michael Penn, I just want a guy that has more arm strength than a child. That's all I care about. Like, I need more arm strength than a thin twig. That's all I want. That's all I want. Michael Penix, love it. Jaden Daniels, sure. As long as it's not Drake May, I don't care. Don't give me a quarterback from UNC. Caleb Williams pisses me off because his attitude sucks. I don't like his attitude. But Penix and Daniels seem like grinders and ballers.
I agree.
Way better than Mac Jones. Also, real quick, no head coaching change in Dallas. Mike the Monkey will be back for the 2024 season. Dallas, congratulations on your first round bounce from the 2025 playoffs. Proud of you. All right, Cap for Life. This is a great question because I'm so happy and excited about it. The Civil War has begun once again. I need your guys' help from an outside perspective. I think I know he thinks he knows what the common denominator is, but what do you guys feel is wrong in Miami at this point? I will bring up something that Cam Newton got ridiculed for early on in this season. He called Dak Prescott and Tua Tagovailoa game managers. Well, I don't fully buy into both of them being game managers because I do believe Dak can make some plays. I do believe Tua can make some plays. They're not playmakers. They're a step above a game manager. I'm not saying Tua is the problem. What I think is the problem is they are too reliant on timing routes. Their defense got decimated. They couldn't handle injury.
So I was going to say, I was going to point the finger at the defense in general,
Yes.
but not even so much from an injury standpoint. I think Mike McDaniel has so much faith in his offense
Yes.
that I don't think he cares what's happening.
Gee, I wonder where he got that from.
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. The defense they built was pretty solid.
Good.
Yeah,
You had two
when they were
excellent.
healthy, holy shit, they were fantastic.
I was going to say, when you lost those two pass rushers,
Dead.
and then it didn't matter that you got Jalen Ramsey back. And Joe, obviously, we have mixed feelings about Jalen Ramsey on this show, but it didn't matter that you got him back because nobody can cover when you're not getting after the quarterback. So.
Yes, and I think they've held on to guys like Xavier Howard far too long. He's not good.
Yeah.
They've held Jerome Baker. They need to get him out of there. They need to get some younger blood in the back seven of the defense. That's where they need to get younger blood in. Jalen Ramsey, old, injured. Jerome Baker, old, injured. Xavier Howard, old, bad, injured. Usually all these things on the back end. Your front seven or your front four, Bradley Chubb, Zach Strife, I think his name is. That's not right, but
Seiler.
Zach something.
Seiler.
Thank you, Seiler. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Christian Wilkins. That's a great defensive line.
Amazing.
Right? That's a great defensive line. Your linebackers are okay. Van Ginkel was a benefit of that defense. He was a benefit. Van Ginkel is not that good. I think if you put him back in that scenario, he might be okay, but he was a benefit of that defense. I truly believe they need to figure out a second option in that offense, not on playmakers. There needs to be a read the defense option for Tua. Because as much as we rag on Brock Purdy for just being a product of the offense, he still goes through his progressions. Tua rarely ever goes through his progressions.
Has to hit the timed route. Like,
yes,
that's how it's
does.
Well, and you see it even when, like, with Hard Knocks, like, they would show when Tua would throw an interception in practice, and McDaniel wouldn't, like, ridicule him at all. It's like, no, you're following the system. You got this. You're good. We'll fix it the next time. And you saw in the playoff game, L'Jarius Sneed was in Tyreek's grill the entire game, threw him completely off of the timing route at all. And there was really no secondary option for any of these routes. It's you're throwing it to Tyreek, or you're throwing an interception, or you're taking a sack. Because there's and that's the issue that Jalen Hurts is dealing with right now, because that offense has no contingencies built into it. It's the same thing right now in Miami.
I would love to go back and see how many of Mike Gesicki's 5 touchdowns last year were when he was the get Tua out of trouble option, because I feel like they didn't have that at tight end this year with Durham Smythe just literally being a jag. Like,
yeah.
I feel like, and I'm not saying Gesicki's like this world beater, but he's a receiver who played tight end. Exactly. Yeah. To where I feel like that's what you mentioned. They need something. I think it's a tight end. I think they need a legit receiving option at tight end that basically plants his ass 7 yards from the line of scrimmage and moves with Tua, so that if fucking the timing route's not there, hit the big guy in the middle of the field.
I think your biggest issue, and go back to Tua's first ever big time throw. It was that throw to Devonta Smith in the national championship game against Georgia. If you go back and watch that, he did nothing but drop back, look off the safety, and time the route to Devonta Smith. Tua has been a timing route quarterback his entire career. And that is scary because it's a guy that can't per se read a defense. He just knows how to look off a defense, which is still a very valuable skill. But when you can't read a defense at the pro level, That's scary. And I'm not saying quarterback is your full issue. I think the system he's in might be a bit of an issue in grinding into that system, no matter how good it is. It's scary. We've seen it fall apart in Kyle Shanahan offenses and coach teams all the time. I don't think Miami is any step closer to being closer to a Super Bowl. I think next year is probably going to be the exact same story.
So we'll probably be covering Miami next week again too, Cap.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Moving into the last playoff, or excuse me, second to last playoff team we'll talk about because the fucking Steelers are on here. Green Bay Packers. My guys, Aaron Jones. What the fuck,
consensus.
dude? Good when he played.
Good when he played. And I said that too. He was my
sleeper. Was he though? He was wide RB 26 in points per game.
I don't know, bro.
This might be a better field option than fantasy option because he was good when he played.
He was good on the field. Yeah, I said it's fun when he's healthy. Everybody and their mother said Aaron Jones. Howard said Dobbs. And I wasn't on the show, but I commanded him, I think, on one show after. I love Dobbs going to the season. I love the late dart throw. I had him in a lot of leagues as that late guy. And early on in my leagues, he paid off well. He was wide receiver 36. He was obviously up and down in the season.
I feel like there were so many guys this season who were good for like the first 12 games and kind of disappeared.
Well,
and Dobbs wasn't astronomically great in any he's one of only 2 wide receivers, I think. Like he was the second highest scoring wide receiver that did not have a 20-point fantasy game behind Cortland Sutton. Yeah.
I think his highest was 18.8. It was like week 2 or
something
3.
like that. And I want to give credit. I think it was Daniel T. Kelly at Daniel T. Kelly on X, but I think he was the one that tweeted that out. I saw, but yeah, like Dobbs was moderately consistent all year. For when it came to projections, I was pretty spot on most of them, except the touchdowns. Like, he had 8 touchdowns this year, and I don't think any of us were really expecting that, but none of us had Jordan Love throwing for 30-plus touchdowns either, so there's that.
Oh, he looked great. My IDP was Jonathan Owens. He had a down season, only started 11 games, despite appearing in all 17. So
he's still married to Simone Biles, so it's an up season.
He's winning.
Yeah, he's Mr. Simone Biles. First off. Okay.
It's always an up season for Jonathan Owens.
It's Simone Biles and her husband, not Jonathan Owens and his wife. So
it's a win.
Yeah. Honestly, again, like what went wrong fantasy wise is Aaron Jones was always hurt, and obviously we had a lot of stock in him.
And Christian Watson.
Did it? Christian Watson. Yeah, but
what went wrong is Christian Watson. Moving on.
You were either way on this side of Christian Watson or way on that side of Christian Watson, and the top half of this stream was way on the backside of Christian Watson. The bottom of the stream was way on the other side of Christian
I'll own up
Watson.
to a couple of things, and this is one of my notes that I want to look at myself and think about this next year. I bought way too much into small sample sizes, and specifically Christian Watson had a 4-game stretch where he was so good. And then I did a couple of more shows with Joel, and I bust Joe's balls all the time, but Joel was telling everybody, the kids showed the talent, and who else are they going to throw to? This was before we had reason to believe in a lower draft capital Romeo Dobbs. We didn't know what we were going to get out of Jaden Reed or Luke Musgrave at this point. So I fully bought into Target Hog, small sample size the year before that was very efficient, and it blew up in my face because what I didn't buy into was injury bug, hamstring issues, and other things that could go wrong. Plus, Jaden Reed looks fucking good.
He looks legit. So. He looks legit. On the field, though, I mean, as a football team, their defense was bad for a good stretch, but they are one of the final 8 teams in the playoffs. And
they're one of those teams that had to figure themselves out. They lost to Darius Smith. They lost the other pass rusher whose name I can't think of right now, who went to Minnesota. Yeah, okay. And then the other linebacker who went to Minnesota. They lost a lot of guys, is what I'm getting at. They had to find themselves, and it's coming together at the right fucking time for them. So
all that matters is you get hot.
They still gave up 32 points to Dallas.
Well, 32 second half bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Ryan. I agree with Ryan on that one. To the Washington Commanders, my guys, you guys just really love being wrong. You guys just really love being wrong. There was no guest on this show, so it was just Josh and Ryan. They both said Antonio Gibson.
Give me, baby.
And you know what Antonio Gibson said?
Fuck you guys for believing in me.
He said, fuck you. But Ryan also brings up don't sleep on Logan Thomas when, in fact, you probably should have. Because,
again, first half of the season, my man was the top 10 tight end, fell completely off in the second half.
yeah, tight end 15 for the season. Yeah.
Give him his flowers.
My sleeper, again, this was, I will admit, out of pure who the fuck do I pick? I picked Brian Robinson, and it paid off for me. So on the stat sheet, that paid off well. He did. I did believe in Brian Robinson having a good season on the ground.
Well, he was always the better value versus him. Between him.
Let's talk about that ADP to begin with. We're letting starting running backs fall to 37.
That's exactly why I said it. I'm like, you're telling me this guy is not even a flex play in like only running back leagues. So it's like that's a joke. So yeah, I was like, there's no way. So, and also his receiving, like 4 receiving touchdowns, almost 400 yards in the air.
I had Antonio Gibson projected for 4 receiving touchdowns, and I'm like, oh, so I picked the wrong running back. Cool.
Yes, and him and Antonio, they were separated by 21 receiving yards. Like what? Nobody saw that coming. And then my IDP was Jamin Davis, but also Cameron Curl, but I didn't want to say Cameron Curl for the 4th straight season. So I said Jamin Davis. And I said Davis was the guy I wanted to hype up, but for real, Cameron Curl, the dog, career high in tackles, 115. The man is a menace. All right. Yeah. Josh talked about revamping that secondary. You can revamp everybody except this motherfucker. All right.
Oh, their corners are dog shit.
Oh, their corners are terrible. You want to know who's not? Cameron
their entire safety group
Curl.
Is good.
You're welcome.
Cameron fucking Curl, dog status. 115 tackles. The man is a menace. What went wrong with this team? No offensive line.
Well, yeah.
No quarterback, kind of.
Such a weird
I did not realize that
Sam
Howell had 21 interceptions this year.
Yeah.
I did not realize that. This dude was leading the league in passing, and nobody was talking about his interceptions.
Well, here's the thing.
They were garbage time every game. The fourth quarter was let's just throw it.
Well, I said this early on in the season. Washington had games of hot and cold, and they were back-to-back weeks. Week 1, Washington looked pretty good. Week 2, Sam Howell throws 5 interceptions against Buffalo. Week 3, pretty good. Week 4, they play Chicago on Thursday Night Football. We all remember how that game went down. They were just hot and cold throughout the entire year. And there were games Howell threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, looked like a viable quarterback. And then the next week would come out and throw back-to-back interceptions on ensuing possessions.
I was going to say, you have to look at this actually goes back to all the way to week 5 where he only had 2 games where he didn't have an interception. From week 11 on, he turned the ball over at least once in every game and had 4 games with multiple turnovers.
He was Daniel Jones, and
that's not even counting fumble losses. This is just me looking at interceptions.
And in that period of time, he was probably sacked 40 times as well.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I think he was sacked close to 70.
Yes, but I'm talking about in the
he's
time
saying
frame
that second
Ryan
half of the season.
I was about to say, like, he led the league in sacks. And it's not
I'm pretty sure they were close to breaking the NFL record. If not, they did.
Well, and I want to throw something out here. People smarter than me, Jason Wood over with Football Guys, who has been doing this for a long time, he 100% believes QB sacks are a QB stat. They're not so much about the offensive line. Sam Howell holding onto that ball for too long is a problem. So,
yes, their offensive line was horrendous.
I'm not going to say
5 times he was sacked.
It helps when they have a good offensive line. But if you look, a quarterback who gets sacked a lot. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Look at Joe Burrow, right?
Yep.
He's consistently getting sacked.
How much money can you put into that line? And this motherfucker keeps getting hit.
Yep.
Their line's not that great. All right. Let's not say something.
Guys,
I get it. So here's my question. If they get a better offensive line in Washington, which I don't think is going to happen this year, although Josh brings up they do have a lot of cap space.
They have a lot of cap space.
Is Sam Howell a decent fantasy option that nobody's going to pay attention to?
No, because he's not going to be the starting quarterback next year. They have the 2nd overall pick. They're taking Drake May.
So you're telling me they drafted one University of North Carolina quarterback already that is playing for them. And
Don't
they're going to
helmet
go
scout, Joe.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not. I can't say that to Joe anymore. It's working out way too well for him. I'm not.
Hold on, real quick. Rashee Rice, 100 yards in the playoff game. What school did he go to? What school did he go to? He went to SMU, wide receiver university. Quentin Johnston had
however
more drops than anybody ever. What school did he go to?
CJ
The
Stroud.
same one Jalen Reagor went to.
CJ Stroud about to make you look silly, Joe.
That's fair. I'll take the L on CJ Stroud. That's fine.
James Roche ain't done shit in the NFL.
Yet.
Bryce Young. Bryce Young, Alabama quarterback. Mac Jones.
He was doing okay.
Alabama.
He's taking his team to the fucking playoffs.
First round bounce. We just talked about Tua. We go down the fucking list of guys. Iowa tight ends. They don't miss.
Fair.
Iowa tight ends don't miss. I'm sorry.
I'm moving Iowa tight ends to the top of my rookie draft board every season.
Every year.
Forward.
Iowa tight ends don't miss, dude. Laporta, Kittle, they don't miss. It's insane. So there are.
Where's Noah Fant in your conversation?
Noah Fant had a good couple seasons. What are you talking about? Noah Fant was that streaming tight end last year that you could plug in and guarantee 8 points a week. I did.
Even.
Josh, I had him for 5 straight weeks. He had 4 for 40 every fucking week. 8 guaranteed. Listen, you don't helmet scout. Drake May is going to be fucking terrible in the NFL. Guaranteed.
Yeah, if he lands in Washington, probably.
You want to know the last UNC quarterback taken number 2 overall? Mitchell, I love kissing titties Trubisky. All right? That's the guy you want. Ugh. What's wrong with the Commanders? They're going to draft Drake May and hate themselves for it. No, they need to use fucking Terry McLaurin. I don't care what they do. Use Terry McLaurin, please.
Somebody who understands what Terry McLaurin.
All right, let's move on because this next team we're going to start fighting about. I know it. So.
Yeah, we are because Diontae Johnson's poo-poo. Also, I don't like that you guys include Week 18 in these because George Pickens was a top 24 receiver.
The stats are the stats, Joe.
The stats, like.
Yeah, but that's not. No, I mean like for their fantasy value. Their fantasy value doesn't make any sense. Don't pay attention to that last one.
I'm still reading it, and I'm like,
yeah.
Trust me, we're not building up his ego. We're doing everything we can to tear him down.
And also, let's be clear, he has not gotten a lot right on this show. He just thinks he's going to be right about next year.
All I know is Ryan has stopped arguing with me on the helmet scouting.
I'm not going to fight you on helmet scouting anymore.
Because he knows I've been way more right than I've been
I was just going to say, I can't give you enough wrong other than CJ Stroud.
You can't. So. You can't. So I'll take the L on Stroud.
I know you will.
Dude looks good.
Yep.
Dude looks good. That's my 1 L. I literally, you can't give me another one.
I will not fight you anymore.
It's
going to be a rough April.
Josh had Diontae. Ryan had Pickens. Joe had Pickens as his sleeper.
It just feels so dirty to say that I had Pickens because I have turned on him so hard at this point.
I just want to point out, this was literally your parenthetical after picking Pickens. It was, I like players that actually score touchdowns. Can I remind you that in 5 less games, Diontae Johnson scored the exact same number of touchdowns as George Pickens? Okay? So, suck it.
Ryan, all I'm hearing, they scored the same amount of touchdowns. That's all I'm hearing.
I was the guy who scored touchdowns. I have turned, Josh, I found the stat on our Monday show. Pickens scored 26% of his fantasy points in 2 games.
Dude, like, it's just...
Hey, were they in the playoffs?
You can say what you want about Diontae. Yes, he got hurt. He didn't have the high-level performances of George Pickens. I think he only had 1 game over 20 fantasy points. But overall, he had only 5 of 13 games under 10 fantasy points. George Pickens, on the other hand, had, like, what was it, 11 games under 10 fantasy points.
Let me be clear. You are not going to catch me defending George Pickens. I said this last week or a couple weeks ago. George Pickens, Gabe Davis, same guy. That's all it is to me. So.
No, not even that. George Pickens is if you went to Pottery Barn and bought Gabe Davis. That's basically what he is.
Guys. First off,
fantasy-wise, same guy.
Fine. You're telling you you can't put you can't put them in the same sentence. Do you see what this motherfucker does? 2 DBs fucking mossing them, sideline catches. This man is insane. You cannot compare him to Gabe Davis.
You have to contest catch when you can't separate.
Correct.
Okay, the dude is insane.
From a fantasy perspective, I'm not playing Gabe Davis ever. I'm not playing George Pickens ever. They are best ball options.
Exactly.
Only.
That's exactly what they are. You can never predict which day they are going to pop. Plain and simple.
I played George Pickens a couple times this year, and I won those games. So
every league where I mistakenly acquired him.
Thanks for taking him off my hands, by the way.
You're welcome, Josh. I will be moving him. I'll move him right now for A.T. Perry.
Do you have him? Do you have him in Dynasty?
I already have A.T. Perry. Let's be perfectly clear. I'm the only one.
Wait, do I have?
No, I don't. No, I don't have him in that league.
I have Pickens in that league.
You probably do.
Yeah.
This will be an offseason of moving Pickens. The second he makes one of those catches in the preseason, I'm gonna be like, let's get him out.
People are gonna be all in on him again because there's gonna be so many changes in Pittsburgh on the offensive side of the football. But Diontae already came out and said he wants Mason Rudolph, which, all right, fuck Kenny Pickett, but they've got to do something at the quarterback position. And quite honestly, I think they do need to move Diontae Johnson. At this point, first off, his career is getting wasted there.
I was just going to say, Diontae Johnson does not fit the model of what this team
No, he doesn't. And I will say, I will give this team credit because they looked more downfield a lot more this year than they have in years past. George Pickens hit 18 yards per reception. Diontae Johnson hit over 14. I did not see any of those numbers being in the conversation when I was doing my projections because I had Pickens about 4 yards per reception less and Diontae Johnson about 3 yards per reception less. But they don't have an identity. They don't. They have no idea what they're doing on offense. I feel like they finally figured out the running back situation. Let Najee get the in-between stuff. Use Jaylen Warren on the outside, and it worked great in the running game. Now they have to figure out quarterback and wide receiver. That's what this team needs to figure out.
Well, Dice Steeler brings up, does any of this change if there's a quarterback in Pittsburgh? They're in no position to get a quarterback in Pittsburgh is the issue.
Free agency is where they're going to have to go.
There's that. And for me, if you guys have watched the show for any period of time, I hold on to my priors for way too long. So no, I'm going to be very, very down on George Pickens for years. So I'm probably out.
But even so, here's the thing: they're not going to get a quarterback because you're telling me the guy who's still the coach that drafted Kenny Pickett is giving up on Kenny Pickett in year 3. No, that's not happening.
And they're not actively benched him. He was healthy enough to come back and said, no, Mason Rudolph, you are the guy. I would be floored right now if they outright handed Kenny Pickett the job starting 2024. There's no way they can do that now.
I don't think they outright handed to him, but I think Tomlin did the best thing that should have been done for the team in that moment.
But is Mason Rudolph the competition, or are they going to go out and get somebody?
I truly think
Mason Rudolph is fucking loved in Pittsburgh for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, he took a Myles Garrett helmet off the head, so
he sacrificed his skull.
So right now the Steelers sit 7.4 over the cap, which again, that's not finalized because they don't know that. But there's a lot of things they can do. I mean, even just outright cutting Diontae Johnson saves them $10 million.
I imagine there's some savings on Patrick Peterson. I imagine he got a decent contract.
I mean, Allen Robinson, you can move off of for $10 million in savings.
Yeah.
Patrick Peterson, I think, was only a 1-year deal. No, sorry.
Okay. No,
yeah, you cut Patrick Peterson. There's $6.8 million. Yeah, there's plenty of moves that they can make to get well under the cap to make a move. And I will say this right now, and I feel like I've said it on numerous occasions to outside people. This team is set up perfectly for Russell Wilson to come in and lead this team back to the playoffs and actually win some playoff games. Everything that Russ does well and is needed for support, this team does well. They play good defense. They can run the football. Their offensive line made a lot of improvements, and he knows how to throw the deep ball.
Which receiver plays better with Russ, Josh Pickens or Diontae?
Pickens.
Oh, Pickens, 100%.
100%.
We saw what happened with Jared Jeudy this year.
If Russ is there, I'm in on Pickens. See ya. He's spoiler
Russ
alert.
won't like his attitude though. Pickens needs to work on that attitude.
Well,
he has one of the worst attitudes I think I've ever seen in
Georgia
the NFL.
Bulldogs. Whatever. I don't care. George Pickens is absolutely fucking ridiculous at football, and the Gabe Davis comparison in fantasy, while fair, criminal, and I hate you for it because that is stupid.
I'm just saying from a fantasy standpoint, and the best way to put it is neither one of them will be on my fantasy team, a redraft team ever. I do not care what their ADP is. The next guy is the better guy.
That's you know what, Ryan? That's fine. I'm happy. I'm happy for you.
Setting lineups is already hard enough. I don't need to fucking decide if this is the 1 week this month that Gabe Davis decides he wants to play football or George Pickens wants to catch 3 touchdowns.
Listen, I will never employ Gabe Davis ever. I will happily employ George Pickens because he does have skill.
And I look forward to this conversation next year when we talk about George Pickens, 26 points, 26% of his points in 2 games.
And he'll be a wide receiver too, and I can still sit here and say, I was right.
It's going to be a Cole Kmet situation where we get to both be right.
So. Yeah. My IDPs, none of them were right, so it didn't even matter. I gave you 3.
rough page for IDP on a team that we thought their defense would be great.
Yeah, well, Cole Holcomb was hurt.
Yep.
Cam Hayward was hurt.
Yep.
And he had a down year. And Diontae Johnson
is the dirtiest bastard in the NFL.
Well, right next there.
Kareem Jackson would like a word.
Oh, yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I forgot about Kareem early on.
Right there with Kareem Jackson, actually. So I said, I say it every time with Diontae Johnson. He can't fucking cover, but he hits like a freight train. And very clearly that was on full display when he put Michael Pittman in the hospital. So I still like KZ next year if he's on the team.
Yeah.
He'll be a hard hitter at a safety. Ladies and gentlemen, that is everything. If we didn't talk playoffs, we were right on an hour.
Well, I said we were 10 minutes into the intro. I noticed we spent 10 minutes on the intro, and usually when Joe's not here, me and Josh are through the intro in 32 seconds. So
yeah, because you're not funny. So like I have to add the comedic value, and I don't know where the Buccaneers fly.
I was just gonna say, yep.
But we had to obviously get that in there. So.
Yeah, to be fair, we didn't have playoffs to talk. We had week 18 to talk. So
which you didn't talk about shit. Exactly. So there was some playoff talk there.
No, this was
ladies and gentlemen, I am back next week. Okay. I heard you talking shit on the last one. Right? I could have sworn I told you guys I wasn't going to be there last week.
You probably did. We just
I thought I did too. You're just a couple old guys and your memory's fading. So
100%.
Ryan didn't even.
I already like George Pickens again.
Yeah. Yes, we did it. We did it. For Josh, Ryan, myself, you can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. Always remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. Same discussion next week with 8 new teams we will be looking back on. We will see you